R.B. Jones asked me what Reform's chances are of winning seats in Holyrood at the next election. Well, thank you for that question. R.B. Jones says, are Reform a serious threat? Well, I don't know yet, really. Reform seem to be taking votes away from Labour and the Tories. So Labour, the Tories and Reform are fighting it out for the kind of hardcore, right-wing, unionist, anti-independence vote. It's certainly true that Nigel Farage is immensely unpopular in Scotland. I doubt he'll do any campaigning in Scotland, and they don't really have anybody to speak for them in Scotland. So I think people will vote for them in Scotland if they're anti-independence, if they're socially regressive, transphobic, homophobic, anti-European. I think that's the kind of vote that they will attract. I don't think they'll win any Westminster seats in Scotland. I don't think they'll win any directly elected seats at the Holyrood elections next year. Scotland has a different electoral system from Westminster, so there are directly elected constituency seats, and then there's a top-up list of seats, list MSPs as they're called, which was designed into the system to make sure that Holyrood is representative of how people vote in the country. So I think it's possible they'll get top-up seats. You know, if they get 20%, for example, of the vote, which is certainly possible, they'll get top-up seats. But they'll harm Labour and the Tories, I think, not the SNP, who I expect, because they're 10 points ahead of Labour, I suspect that that the SNP will win the next election again in Scotland. On that question, Independence Live, a pseudonym, says, how can the SNP inspire people? The SNP is bleeding support. Well, that's not really true, is it, Independence Live? The SNP is 10 points ahead of Labour and over 30% in the polls consistently across all the polling organisations. The SNP's number 1, number 2 is Labour, and then Reform, the Tories, the Lib Dems are all kind of fighting it out further down the field. But it's certainly true that there is a gulf between support for the SNP and support for independence. So support for independence sits at about 55% now. The younger you are, the more likely you are to vote for independence. The only group who are anti-independence now, by a majority, are the over 65s. So the question John Swinney, the First Minister, the SNP leader, has to ask himself, and I'm sure does every day, is how come 55% of the country support independence and only 33, 34, 35 perhaps % of the country vote SNP? Where is the missing 20%, and how can I inspire them? It's a difficult question. You know, there's not many countries, not many democracies in the world have the same party in government for more than a decade, and yet the SNP has been in power for well over a decade now. Electoral cycles just inevitably mean that people kind of get scunnered with their party leaders. Nicola Sturgeon, when she resigned, said that. She said, you know, I've been around a long time, almost a decade. Inevitably, people will have very fixed ideas about me, will just get kind of fed up with me or love me. I lose the power to change people's minds because they've got such fixed ideas about me. So in a way, the fact that the SNP is on 35, not 55%, is partly because it's been in government so long. And I think a lot of people in Scotland don't realise how different Scotland is now from south of the border, how much the SNP's delivered, you know, free education, mitigating the bedroom tax, you know, now taking over and delivering the winter fuel allowance, free prescriptions. Folk down south don't have any of these things. So in a way, I think the SNP's got to be better at telling people about all the things that it's done. And I think people have just simply got to realise that, you they might think the SNP is a bit boring or uninspiring or whatever, but if you support independence, they are the only vehicle that's going to deliver it. So get out and vote. No point sitting at home gurning and moaning. You know, if you want Scotland to be independent, there's only one way of delivering it, and that's to vote for it.